Day 5 at Edgbaston, and this is Ask George. Simon Stokes says, could we be watching the start of the most competitive, exciting 5-0 series defeat ever?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. It's a bit early for that, isn't it? I've no idea what was going to happen, but, you know, it was obviously a very entertaining, very closely contested test match. Worth remembering what happened at the start of 2005, I suppose, or 81 even. I don't think it necessarily means that much to with what's going to happen to the rest of the series. Although do remember that England need to win the series rather than draw it to retain the Ashes. Or win the Ashes. They need to win it back.
Liam Cromer asks, would the Ashes be more exciting if Australia were also trying to play baseball, or is the excitement heightened by the contrast? The contrast was so strict these last 5 days.
The contrast was great, and that was kind of fun. I don't think everyone has to try and smash the ball and score at 5 and over for cricket to be fun. You know, I'm sometimes wondering whether they're trying to play cricket for people who don't particularly like cricket. Sorry. I'm a real hardcore guy who so, you know, I'm not the target market because I really love it, and I'm probably going to, you know, love it nearly all the time, whatever happens. So maybe I'm the very worst person to ask that to, but I still sort of rail against the premise of the question that you have to try and score quickly for cricket to be entertaining. I don't think that's always the case, although sometimes clearly it is.
Jack Rule asks, yes, there is a lot of shoulda, woulda, coulda going around, but shouldn't we just celebrate this test for how great it's been?
It's not the village green, though, is it, Jack? I mean, you're clearly on a level right. You know, in years to come, yeah, there was a lot here to savour. But I think it can be both, can't it? Maybe I'm out of... You know, there's a lot of people asking this type of question, that tone of question, and it may be that I'm really out of step. But I think winning still matters. As I say, it's Test cricket, it's international cricket. It's not the village green. It's not walk off and have a beer with each other immediately afterwards. It's meant to be tough and it's meant to matter. It still matters to me.
I don't think you are out of step, actually, looking at some of the replies on social media. There does seem to be a genuine split between the two.
There's a divide.
Although, is it a divide? I don't think people are sort of shouting at each other, yes, it has to be this way or that way.
No.
You know, it's not Brexit.
They're not. They're not. And I don't think anyone's doubting that there's something really lovely about this England side. And you know, they're terrifically entertaining and a lot to admire and enjoy. And equally, you just saw a terrific Australian captain play a brilliant innings, and actually at the end of a very smart game, I thought. And you know, you couldn't but admire them, could you? So you know, there's a lot to praise. But yeah, I'm not going home thinking, oh, you know, the game's the winner. I'm not actually. No, maybe I should be.
One more question on a similar theme, and then I promise we'll move on to some more intricate parts of the game. Matthew Wright asks, is the job of the England team to win tests or to entertain, fill stands and get people watching or listening at home?
Okay, so again, those questions, there aren't right and wrong answers, are they? They're discussion points over a beer or over a coffee or whatever. I just want to... There's a sort of a bit of a salvation complex I keep hearing from the England squad at the moment about we're trying to save Test cricket. Geez, I don't know how long I've been doing this. You tell me when I haven't covered a game where there's been a full house at an Ashes, particularly an Ashes test in England. And actually, Test cricket in England sells out a lot. Not all the time, but a lot. And no one's saying there aren't challenges. But this thing with saving Test cricket was in pretty rude health in England. It's just a bit simplistic we've got to play this way to save the game. And actually, if they really want to save the game, make the argument for more free-to-air.
Actually, I generally agree with you on the point of this, because they don't need to say we're trying to save it. They could just play that way and they'd still get the same reaction.
Yeah, and as I say, there is beauty and entertainment in lots of other things. It must have been Paul Edwards. We've had Paul Edwards, the great Paul Edwards, and I mean that, sitting between
seasoned scribe
all
Paul.
Game, and he's probably the only person I call Mr. Edwards, by the way, not just because his surname's Edwards, the Mr. bit. Anyway, I think it was in the first over after Crawley had smashed that cover drive on the upward, wonderful shot, but he also came right forward, smothered a forward defensive, and we both went, oh, that's nice. There's beauty in cricket in lots of different ways, eh?
Dave Studland asks, is Robinson's mouth more of a hindrance than a help? He got himself in a bit of chat at various points, and again today.
He's a feisty, passionate, terrific cricketer. A lot of the answers to a tweet I put out today pointed out that he said Australia had 3 number 11s were saying, oh, he should shut up, he's rubbish. He's fantastic. I think he's a brilliant cricketer. I think he's had a very good game with the bat and ball on a pitch that did very little for him. I'm certainly not going to defend the social media comments from 10 years ago. No one is going to. He clearly said silly, abhorrent things, has apologised. And so I want to separate that before answering the rest of it. I would love him not to say these things. I would love him not to have done the Khawaja thing, the send-off. But do I find it a little bit entertaining? And do I see any harm in it? Not really.
Today's was pretty tame, wasn't he? He was telling Khawaja, why didn't you drive a half volley for 4? And Khawaja was just saying, well, it's in the rough, mate, you're not a batsman.
I suppose the thing you would say to him, if you were in a pub or something, you'd say, look, the game does have a habit of going and biting you on the arse. But 3 nights ago, you were saying, they got 3 number 11s. Well, why couldn't you get them out then? Would be what you would say to him. The game does that. Will he have learned from it?
No, absolutely not. No.
He's a very, very good cricketer, and that passion might be part of what makes him. There was a lot of Jimmy Anderson. Jimmy Anderson was a lot more like that. If you go back to 10 years, he was very grumpy and feisty on the pitch as well. And he's changed. He's mellowed and probably learned, and hopefully Ollie Robinson will too.
We don't have a question on it here, but quickly on Anderson, who was pretty much anonymous today. Do you think that says anything about where Stokes is seeing this attack? He was leaning heavily on Broad and Robinson.
Very specific wicket. I think he did take the edge of Khawaja in the first over yesterday, was it? The edge was put down. Look, he's had a somewhat anonymous game by his very illustrious standards. It's interesting that he wasn't given the new ball. It's interesting that he wasn't called on for those clutch moments. But I'd be very careful about writing off Jimmy Anderson just yet, eh?
Yeah, fair enough. Daniel Chapman asks, if Root can offer better control than Mo, as well as a wicket-taking threat, why don't they consider him as the primary spin option to get another seamer or batter / Folkes even in?
Okay. So I hear you, but even today, when Moeen has one gnarled finger with it clinging on by a bit of skin, he still bowled a beautiful ball to get Carey out. So I think what you have to remember with Moeen is the ceiling is very, very high with what he can do, much higher than what Root could do as a bowler. Root did terrifically, you're completely right. I keep forgetting where the camera is. It's that green light, isn't it? Anyway, so he bowled. Root did a really good job today, but I don't think, as I say, he can get the drift, the loop that Moeen can. And actually, if you look at a couple of his dismissals in this game even, Green bowled through the gate, and Carey caught today. They were really terrific pieces of bowling. And, maybe with a better keeper, he's ended up with at least 5 wickets in the match. Don't judge him just... he bowled horribly at times, of course he did. He is injured. Now, whether that was inevitable is a legitimate point, of course, to raise. But I can see why they like him, and I do think at his best, he's England's best. At his best, he's England's best. It's just the thing... His best ball is about as good as you'll see from an off-spinner, a traditional off-spinner. I really mean that. I think Graham Swan would agree. The difference between him and Graham Swan is Graham Swan bowled his best ball often and very rarely bowled the bad balls. And Moeen's bad balls are, unusually bad. And you've seen all this, but it's always been this way with Moeen.
Danny asks, was it Broad's no balls, Bairstow's drops and misses, or Moeen's predictably injured finger which cost England the game?
Well, clearly it's all those things, but it's all those things. Of course it is. It's a combination of those things, but it's also Pat Cummins, Usman Khawaja, and some very smart, high-quality cricket from Australia. So, got to give a lot of credit there. That was a really super chase marshalled by Khawaja and Cummins, and they played in a very different style to England. I think they deserve a lot of credit.
Neil Virani asks, how is Alan Border supposed to feel about Australia winning in a very unstryan way?
He'll be bloody delighted they've won, because winning matters.
And lastly, James21 asks, it's been a tactic for some time now, but why the constant bounces from both ends to the lower order?
Yeah. So in this game, I think they would argue that there was no lateral movement, was there? Or very little lateral movement. And so they were trying that because it worked in the first innings and the pitch maybe didn't promise a lot from pitch it up, seam or swing bowling. What I would have said is that the cutters did work. You know, we did see some wickets from cutters. Maybe they should have gone to that a bit more. But let's just remember, there was a drop catch. You know, I mean, it was terribly difficult. But Nathan Lyon was dropped and the outside edge was beaten on several times. The margins are very small. I think there is a legitimate discussion topic that you've just raised there, but I could kind of see why they did it today. I hope that makes sense.
We got 7 days resting on to Lords. Thanks for having me, George. It's been fun 5 days.
Oh, it's been really bad. Genuinely, I've never had better questions in any of these shows I've ever done anywhere than on this test. We've talked about it, haven't we?
Yeah, and lots of them were really, really good.
They'd be better than the answers, so thank you for that. And see you next time.
Yeah, when he's going to be joined by Hugh Turbeville. So have a lot of fun there.
Back by popular demand. His popular demand.
Have a good break, everyone. See you in a week.